How's everyone doing today? My name is Alexander Roubian. I'm the president of the New Jersey Second Amendment Society. Come on, I'm from New Jersey. I think I deserve a little more than that, all right? We're on the front lines. We're on the front lines, all right? That's more like it. I always love traveling around the country and talking to gun owners because I always feel like I'm at an AA meeting where it's like, I'm not joking. It's like, I'm Alexander, I'm from New Jersey, and I'm a gun owner. And unanimously, everyone's always like, oh, you poor thing. I'm so sorry to hear that. You want to see my gun? So in any case, I'm not here to speak to you about how in 1959, my mother was 4 years old, and they registered all the gun owners in Cuba. Fidel Castro just took power, and as expected, a couple days later, the doors were banged down, guns were shoved in my grandparents' face, and everything became property of the government. I'm also not here to talk to you about how in 1914, 1915, my grandparents were forced to register their guns in Armenia by the Ottoman Turks. Within a couple of years, 2 million Armenians were religiously persecuted and murdered. What I am here to talk to you about is results-oriented activism that we're engaging in New Jersey. Because what we've done over the past 5 years, and what I've realized is that these legislators do not care about our rights. It is not about the Constitution, it's about their agenda. About a few months ago, a woman named Carol Bowen applied for a permit to purchase a gun, thinking that she was applying for a permit to actually carry a gun in self-defense against her psychotic, convicted, violent domestic abuser ex-boyfriend who she had a restraining order against. Now, in New Jersey, we have a rule that is blatantly violated that you have to get your permit within 30 days. Every day, almost every other day, what the media won't report is that she was going to the police department saying, my life is in danger, this man is stalking me, he's going to kill me. That was out of the words, that was out of her brother and sister's mouth and parents that she did every day. On the 45th day, she was found murdered in her driveway, and the following day, they found the convicted felon ex-boyfriend, he hung himself because of the response that the police had, and they were looking for him. Now, I also manage and run an animal rescue nonprofit. We rehabilitate and rescue dogs and find them forever homes. If I ever put any small dogs or helpless dogs in a cage with violent dogs and that dog was killed, I would be murdered. I would be convicted of animal abuse charges. If I had a child and that child was hurt, I would also, in New Jersey, be charged with crimes of child negligence. But in New Jersey, if a legislator creates a law that creates victimhood and innocent people being murdered, they actually have laws that create immunity against the police, the government, and any politician that created a law which led to an innocent person being murdered. I find that if you create a law that creates victimhood, those people should be convicted of being accomplice of a crime that led to that person to be dead. My response to Carol Bowen's murder, which even though that man stabbed her to death, you didn't see Bloomberg coming out or any of his crony groups requiring and marching and demanding more, knife action, and we should create more laws against knives. No, they didn't care. You know why? Because a gun was not used in the crime. If she would happen to have been shot to death, you can see national news picking up the story, demanding and calling for more, action against gun violence, which is that term in itself is ridiculous, gun violence. We didn't call that murder a knife violence, so why do we call any crimes that are committed with a gun violence? Our response was not to meet with our legislators, which we've done for 5 years, and asked and begged and claimed and stated that the laws that they're forcing, the laws that they have on the books today, actually create victims like Carol. So instead, we protested. Now, I didn't decide to protest in Trenton, which is our state capital, and go to the offices of our legislators. I decided to go and protest right in front of our Senate president's house, who is in control of the legislature, and say, how dare you create these laws? The funny thing is that, how did he find out the address? Well, if you look at his biography on the state website, there's his birthday. And in New Jersey, if you go to the state elections website, you can put in the name and the birthday, and the person's address comes out as a registered voter. So for 2 weekends, we went to Senate President Stephen Sweeney's house and protested with 30 to 50 protesters. And instead of this man being responsive and saying, I think I should listen to my constituents, this woman is murdered, let's create better laws. What he does is he turns the sprinklers on. Now, this is early June, it was literally 95 degrees. As idiotic as he is, instead of being diplomatic, I would love to speak to his PR manager because it was ridiculous what he did. Instead, he cooled us off. We turned it into a little field day. The kids were jumping through the sprinklers. We're all wearing black, and we're jumping through the sprinklers as well. And of course, the media picks it up. I get a phone call from they asked me for a quote. I said, gee, I wish he would have told me they were going to turn the sprinklers on because I would have worn my bathing suit instead. In one day, that article was the #1 most read and commented article in all of newspaper history in New Jersey on NJ.com. Most importantly, the response was in support for us. And for the first time, this legislator, this senator, actually was being demonized for what he's been doing. Not because all of a sudden everyone cared about gun rights, but because of the narrative that we were pushing. And the narrative was the laws that he supports and has created over the past 12 years has done nothing but create victims. And it wasn't about giving everyone a gun. It was about the fact that this woman chose to use a gun she was 95 pounds, 5 foot, against a man that was 6'4", 260 pounds. How else would she have been able to defend herself? So, of course, the natural response from the legislators and, these liberals that are attacking me for saying, how dare you go to this man's house? You should have gone to Trenton and had meetings with him. I said, no. As Brandon mentioned, the game has changed. This is personal now. Can Carol Bowen's family go home and forget about what happened to their daughter? Absolutely not. So why could this man go to his family every day, turn his phone off, and not worry about the consequences that his laws create in a state that already has the most ridiculous gun laws in the country, if not more than the world? Because I have friends of mine coming back serving in Iraq, and Iraq has more gun rights than we do in New Jersey. The other disappointing response that I was getting was, well, you should be scared and worried now because you're no longer going to get meetings with these legislators. You know what? I don't care. You know why? Because they should be scared of me and us that they're not going to get meetings with us instead of us being scared that we're not going to get meetings with them. And that's how we have to turn the narrative into dialogue and a conversation around this country. Imagine our founding fathers, the millions of people that have died for America saying, gee, I should not do something because I'm going to be scared that my legislator is not going to have a meeting with me. That's absurd. We have to reverse that role. They should be scared of us, and they are as scared of us because now I know the conversations that are going on. I have friends that work in the offices of the New Jersey legislators, and they're saying that they're worried about what our next move is. The reporters are literally calling me up every week. What do you have? What are you going to be doing next? Because they want to know what we're up to. If you go just Google Alexander Roubian sprinklers, it's the #1 response on Google, and you'll see there was over 2,000 comments. They had to turn the page off because there was so much activity. And the reporter called me up that week saying, this is incredible. Out of all the major newspapers and everything else, your activism, what you wrote about, is actually the #1 most commented and read article. So I'm estimating between 3 and 5 million people read that. I was just in Puerto Rico 3 weeks ago. A Marine walks up to me and says, are you the guy that was in the video with the sprinklers against the senator? In Puerto Rico, of all states. I was a little nervous. I'm like, oh God, they're gonna whack me now. This guy is a Senate president. He's a union thug. And all of a sudden, they're going to take me out in Puerto Rico. And I'm just like looking around, like texting my mom, hey, Mom, I love you. I'm happy I spent this past week with you in Puerto Rico. And he comes out and he goes, man, I'm so happy to meet you. We hate that whatever word, you know. My friends and my boss will never believe that I met you taking a selfie with me and saying, let me turn this timer off, sorry. So in any case, in regard to our rights, you know how the town responded? They banned protesting. And within a week, they actually banned protesting in the town to protect this one individual, which we always say, the Second Amendment protects all of our other rights. And that's why it's so important that we keep fighting to actually preserve this right. I actually got to meet Alan for the first time in Newark, New Jersey last year. And as we're sharing watermelon sorbet together in downtown Newark, he's explaining to me, you know, what's going on in the state and national level. And what I'm realizing is this is a war. And the only difference is that we're not being shot at yet. And when people and legislators want to take our rights away, there's no difference when they shove a gun in our face and say, like they did to my grandparents on both sides of my family, we're taking away your property, we're taking away your liberty, we're taking away your freedom, either through force or through legislation, and which would lead to in fear of incarceration. And that's why I fight every day, New Jersey. I thank you guys for your time and all of your support, and let's just keep fighting forward.